So before I get into the discourse portion of this video, let me finish off a topic that I didn't have enough time to discuss in my last video, the media, and how messed up they can really be. So in my last video, I was talking about how there's a double standard of how rioters or protesters are comparing these current riots to football fan riots. For whenever there's a football team that wins the World Cup or whatever the hell it's called, there's always a riot that happens for the football team's fans who have won the game. And so they cause mass destruction, burning cars, hopping on stoplights or signs, and just causing and wreaking havoc. And how the media doesn't really hold that riot to the same standard and level as these current riots that are going on. And how those riots, the football fan riots, get like a slap on the hand, or how police officers aren't really involved in the situation. Now, I completely agree with this double standard. I think the media should hold these football fan riots to the same level, if not more, because there's no justifiable reason as to why they're doing it. All because your football team won a game that gives you the reason to destroy your city makes no sense. But what I believe to be the main reason as to why news outlets like CNN, Fox News, whatever news outlet you watch, don't really hold the football fan riots to the same standard as these current riots is because there's no political nuance to it. I think everyone, no matter your race, political ideology, or gender, or sexuality, wherever the hell, can all agree that football fan riots are dumb and are unjustifiable and just idiotic. It's just a bunch of drunk people who are euphoric and ecstatic and have this mob mentality that they need to destroy stuff because their team won. I think it's pretty much unanimous. And news outlets can't really get much people to click on their posts or videos or watch them because everyone can agree and understand that, yeah, football fan riots are dumb and idiotic. Why do we need to watch the news to remind us of this? Like, the news can't really do much of this because everyone agrees football fan riots are dumb. Whereas the current riots are more politically nuanced. There's different perspectives and ideas and more topics at hand. Here, we're looking at a man who was unjustifiably killed by a white police officer. People can make a topic about this saying how it's systemic oppression of the police officers to black minorities, or how it's racism because it was a white officer who killed a black man who did nothing and was not showing any forms of restraint. It's just this whole movement. There's a lot of different topics at hand here. Whereas the football fan riots is just, oh, a team won, let's cause destruction. The media picks and chooses what they want to portray to the audience because of whatever gets the more clicks and views. Here, there are different perspectives that you can look at, and so the media is more worried about the juicier stuff, or the more politically nuanced that people can dissect and look at, and how these topics are a bit more heavier. There's more layers to these. It goes deep into the government, and if they're at hand with this, is it systemic oppression? There's more topics to discuss and look at it. So the media has more of different varieties that they can look at and pick and portray and show to the audience. I have seen that video of All Gas No Breaks where he's probably the most reliable journalist next to Louis Lang and Peter Parker, because he literally goes in the front lines of these riots and just asking people if the riots are good or bad. And he doesn't give his opinion or doesn't look down upon them or dehumanizes them or makes or belittles them. He just asks them a question, they answer, that's that. That's a great journalist. News outlets like Fox, CNN, or this guy who are just watching from the sideline and recording it and not really asking the people themselves or firsthand why they're doing it is insane. It's not really great journalism whatsoever. You're just portraying these riots or protests in whichever light that you want them to be portrayed in. It's insane. The media and news outlets are pretty bad at times. Sometimes they're good, like how they informed people that this police officer was unjustifiably killed by rioters who broke into this jewelry shop. Sometimes news outlets can be a good source of news. A lot of times, not so much. Also, another thing before I forget, there was a post that Pink made, or reposted actually, showing a group of black men making or forming this chain around a police officer. And the story behind this is that this police officer was separated from his unit. A group of black protesters noticed that he was alone and was being crowded or surrounded by violent rioters. They then proceed to intervene and protect and make a circle around him to create this division between the violent rioters and the police officer to prevent any attacks from happening, from either the police officer being injured or the rioters being injured. They caused this shield around him, and that's great. It shows unity and equality. It shows that protesters and police officers can get along, but the media doesn't want to show this because it doesn't fit their narrative of how negative the riots can be. Which, again, I agree the riots are terrible, but the protests are peaceful. But news outlets are mostly focused on the rioting rather than the actual peaceful protests and the whole George Floyd case. They just want to look at what gets the more views and clicks. With all that being said, let's get into the discussions I've had with people online. Let's look at this first post, and before I get into the discussion once again, Let me give my opinions on this post. So it basically shows a supercut of police officers driving their cars in front of protesters or beating and pushing them, hitting them with batons, macing them. While I do agree that there are police officers who aren't justifiably doing these things, attacking protesters with no reason, I don't like that they don't really show the context of these things. I don't really like supercuts like this because sometimes it doesn't give the full story as to how it got to the climax. I agree that some of these officers, like I said, are unjustly attacking these protesters or pushing them too hard or aggressively. I do agree with that. But sometimes you need, well, a lot of the times, you do need context as to how it got to this climax. Because I saw this one article talking about how these police officers were beating this peaceful protester with batons, how it was too aggressive and uncalled for. When I think later that day, or like a day later, there was a video that leaked online showing how it reached that climax or that point. To give the full context of how it got to this point, there was a group of police officers who were running towards a protest. I don't completely remember if it was becoming violent or it was being too loud and aggressive, but they're running towards a protest. They haven't beaten anyone with batons yet. They haven't tear gassed anyone. They haven't shot rubber bullets. They're just running towards it. And one police officer who has done nothing so far and is just running towards the protest gets rammed into a van by a protester for no reason. And so that's what causes the police officers to beat this man up with batons. So a lot of the times you do need context as to how it reached that point. Supercuts like these I don't really like too much because it's mostly there to tug at your heartstring. For either side, I don't like supercuts like these for either side, for either protesters or police officers. I don't like it if it only shows me a supercut of all the violent protests, and I don't like it when it shows me a supercut of only the violent police officers. I need context. I need the whole story and how it reached that point. That was my opinion, but let's get into the discourse. So a woman commented saying, both sides are violent, policemen and protesters, but not both sides are showed in your video. Which I agree. The discourse really starts here where a guy commented on her comment and disagreeing with her by saying, why do people like you tend to try to protect the police or defend the police? I respond to him by saying, well, because not all police officers are bad. I live in Charlotte and people broke and looted North Lake Mall and there weren't even any police there. How does looting a mall in a completely different state help the situation? He responds to me by saying, why should we give a fuck about the white man work? And he could care less if my people died. See, when we protest peacefully so many years, and no one took us seriously, and they basically said we don't care, I'm going to kill y'all. I don't want to, and I know I'm going to get away with it because I'm a police officer and white at that. Why should we care? Y'all didn't care when my people die every day. A store could get fixed, a store could restock clothes and items. A human can't come back. I then responded saying, peaceful protest has worked in the past. Greensboro sit in the 1960s when 4 black students started a movement by sitting in a restaurant that discriminated towards them. More people peacefully joined and actually caused change when the owners of the restaurant stopped segregating because of this protest. Now, before I get further into my response, I want to say that my opinion has changed on the example that I have given because I saw this video of a comedian saying how this exact example is not really good for my argument or for other people's argument using this example because it's easy to change restaurant change in businesses and to cause them to stop segregating because those are businesses. It's easy to change that. Whereas police force and things dealing with the government, it's a much larger, grander scale. So I never really looked at it that way. So my viewpoint on that example has changed and I regret saying it, but it was a week ago and his video was uploaded like 2 days ago. So, keep doing your research, you guys. Keep watching videos because here is actual proof of how my opinion can change from looking at other people's perspectives and viewpoints. So I I don't completely agree with what I just said, but I can't change it. So to continue with my response, also, what some people are realizing that yes, big corporations can recuperate and repair buildings, but what about small businesses owned by people of color? A black former firefighter used up all of his life savings to open up his first bar. Due to COVID-19, he had to postpone the opening until June 1st, when it was finally allowed that he could do so. But due to the riots, his bar was destroyed and robbed, and he sadly doesn't have insurance. A black man suffered loss from riots, and no one is talking about it because everyone believes that all businesses have insurance, when that's far from the truth. And these businesses are many people's livelihood, and it was stolen from them due to these riots. And rather than dissecting or disagreeing or disproving my argument, he goes on to say, but yet my people still die. You can defend your people all day, but your people are murderers. Are murders. Do you know how many black people died in just 1 month? I then say, don't know if you know this, but I'm actually Mexican. It may come as a surprise to you guys and to this guy, but yes, I'm Mexican. I know I look pale as fuck, and I have the blonde, silver hair. There's some black growing out, which is my natural hair color, but yes, I understand that I look very Caucasian. But I am in fact Mexican. I'm not trying to be condescending or to belittle anyone. I'm just Mexican, and on my profile, I look pretty ethnic, and I don't think I look that Caucasian. But I had to I had to prove him wrong that I'm not part of the people he's saying I'm part of. I agree that not all white people are bad, but I'm not part of white people because I'm nowhere near white on a ethnic or genetic level. I'm genetically Mexican. Also, I'm not disagreeing that numerous amounts of black people haven't been killed in the past month. My main argument is that these riots benefit no one. Jesus. Okay, before I get further into it, make sure to proofread because I make a lot of mistakes in these responses. So proofread your arguments. That way you sound more literate or professional. And here I'm having a Bella Thorne moment. These businesses are what keeps some families living a stable life, and is their main source of income. Yes, they are still alive, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm glad that no one was hurt physically. But what are they going to do? How are they going to pay for rent or buy food? Now, he hasn't responded to this statement as to this date, as to me recording this, so he just completely ignored my argument. He has responded to other people's arguments in the same day that we were having this argument or discussion, so I guess he just got tired of me. Maybe he didn't have enough evidence or enough claims to disprove me, so I think that's a win for me. I'm just going to take that win. But again, I'm just causing this discussion. I'm not trying to make these people look bad or belittle them or make them look down or look like I'm superior, even though I did win this argument. It's just, I just want to have a discussion so I can hopefully change people's minds. So he ignores me, and someone else actually decides to have a discussion with me. This person says to me, but that stuff can be rebuilt. Look what happens when they try to be peaceful and heard. They get beat and way more stuff behind camera. They are angry and start rioting. They try to be peaceful, but that doesn't get them heard. So, I respond to this person saying, yeah, it's easy rebuild for large companies such as Target and AutoZone, but not for small businesses that are owned by both white people and people of color. There's an article about a black man who used to work as a firefighter and used up his life savings to open up his first bar, but because of COVID-19, again, proofread please, he had to delay the opening and was scheduled to open on June 1st. But because rioters destroyed his building, he can't open at all. To make matters worse, he sadly doesn't have insurance to cover for it. I completely agree that these officers shouldn't be violent or use violence if people are peaceful. But this also doesn't warrant and give a good reasoning for people to ransack and attack buildings, especially in other states such as North Carolina and Dallas that had nothing to do with the George Floyd case or anywhere near Minneapolis. Now, I restated the whole thing because I'm pretty sure she didn't see my discussion with the last guy, so I had to reiterate the whole thing and reread it for you guys. She responds to say, not saying that them breaking into everything is a good thing, but a life is way more valuable and precious than buildings and goods. Yes, it's sad these good people are getting the stuff destroyed, but lives are getting destroyed every day because they can't find it in their heart to stop being racist and love people of color. If the system was fair, maybe all this wouldn't happen. Now, this is my fault. I completely forgot to respond to her argument, not because I don't want to, but it's because I actually got sidetracked by another person who started a discussion with me. So, maybe I'll reply. I'm not sure. It's a week old. Maybe she completely forgot about it. This is post-editing Alberto, and I want to quickly respond to her response since I clearly forgot to do it through Instagram, and I also forgot to do it in my video when I was first recording it, so I'm going to do that right now. While I'm glad that she agrees that looting isn't good and does hurt the buildings and goods that these people are selling, that's the only thing I can really agree on in her statement. With the rest of it, I don't agree with it entirely because some of these buildings and restaurants that these people own is their livelihood and how they earn income to support their families and to pay their rent. So again, I don't see any purpose in looting. I think protesting is perfectly fine and great. Rioting, I'm not 100% in support of it, but at the same time, I can see why it's necessary because it does bring more awareness and show how serious the people are to making change for a system that does have a lot of flaws and needs to be improved. So I can see rioting to a certain degree. If you're going to riot, then at least riot and attack the buildings, let's say the police precinct and police cars. That makes sense. Rioting and looting random businesses that have nothing to do with the situation whatsoever, makes no sense to me. It's nonsense. So, again, these buildings and restaurants are people's livelihoods, and looting and destroying them doesn't change anything. Again, I agree that a human life is much more important than a building and goods. But at the same time, this building and goods is what supports certain families and people. That's how they earn their income and live. So yeah, I'm glad that she agrees that looting isn't good. Also, I don't like the generalization that she kind of makes. I'm pretty sure she's talking about the police officers in this one line. Yeah, there are a lot of bad officers who are racist and do need to change their heart. But at the same time, there are some good who want to make change and are in support of the cause. If you're watching this video, it's the one who responded to me. I doubt she's watching the video because there's not that many subscribers. But if you do by any chance happen to see this video, I hope that you respond to my comments and you add more to the discussion, or hopefully you can change my mind. Yeah, I don't agree with your entire statement there. I'm glad that you agree that looting isn't good and solves nothing. So I hope you do get to respond and talk to me and we can discuss this a bit more. You're one of many of the calmest people that have responded to me, unlike the next person that we're going to be talking about. So the argument that I got sidetracked with starts off with her responding to me by saying, "We obviously don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about Black Lives Matter, but they expect us to care about their life savings?" Well, that's a closed-minded and selfish way of thinking and viewing things. I can send you links to 3 separate people of color who each own their own business, who had their store/restaurants ransacked by rioters, and have even shown support for seeking justice for George Floyd. They all support the protests, but were confused as to why their stores were attacked. How is that fair? There are other people who agree with me, so, I'm not alone in this. She then goes on to say, "I just told you I don't give a fuck. You're talking about 3 out of millions." Before I get further into the argument or the conclusion of this anime story arc, I forgot to mention about her argument saying about the 3 out of millions. I do agree that there are a lot of black people who were unjustifiably killed by police officers, both shown on camera or publicized by news media and outlets, and some that weren't given as much publicity. I do think there's a large group of African Americans or black people who were unjustifiably killed by police officers, but millions. Now, I'm not sure about that statistic. Millions of people unjustifiably killed by police officers, but I'm not sure about millions. That's a lot. Again, I'm not going to disagree or agree with it. It's just, that's a lot. That's a big, big group of African American people who are getting unjustifiably killed. I then go on to say, "Then it's clearly pointless to discuss this with you. You appear very ignorant and closed-minded and lack to," again, proofread please. I meant to say, "and appear to lack empathy for both white and colored people who are seeking justice and equality and suffered unnecessary consequences. Have a great day and stay safe." Of course I'm going to be pointless to discuss this because I'm telling y'all I don't give a fuck about these businesses, and y'all keep exposing why I should. I'm no ignorant nor closed-minded. If anything, y'all are closed-minded for not understanding why black people are so hurt and why we are grieving. And what white person do you know that is seeking justice and equality? Shut y'all stupid ass up. I will never understand how white people can make everything about them. Can y'all let us shine? Damn. Again, I'm not white. I'm Mexican. People, just look at my profile. It's open, it's public. I'm not white. That's not the important part of this whole thing. We're not trying to make it, well, God, white people aren't trying to make it about them. It's just that a lot of white people who are in support of George Floyd, who own a business, are suffering consequences that aren't necessary. They aren't making it about themselves because it's their business and livelihood that's being affected, not because they're born white, but because their businesses were destroyed. They're making it about themselves because that was their livelihood and form of income. What, they're just gonna keep protesting and not care about how they're gonna pay rent or what to do next? Like, what do you expect them to do? It's their business, it's their livelihood. I don't understand. Uh, yeah, that's not a good argument. That's not a good argument. My last response to her, because she didn't respond to me after this, I said, "Yes, that is very ignorant and closed-minded. We understand why black people are hurt, as well as the rage they have, but it all depends on what you do with that rage. Killer Mike of Run the Jewels gave a great speech about how we need to use our rage in the voting polls, not by destroying your own hometown. If you want links of white people in support of George Floyd, I got them, and willing to share them. Unless you still don't care, then why bother, right?" She didn't respond to me, but she did respond to other people, and I honestly don't know what to say. Like, some of these people I'm having discussions with aren't really bringing up good arguments. I'm not trying to belittle them or make them look dumb or actively trying to get them triggered or mad. I'm just curious as to where they're coming from, and I still don't understand where they're coming from. These riots benefit no one, and from these arguments that I've shown so far, have yet to prove me wrong. They haven't shown enough resources or links as to why these riots are beneficial. They're just saying that it's all from emotional and pent up rage and how unjustifiable police officers are treating black people. I agree. Police officers, for like the 10,000th time that I'm saying this, are unjustifiably killing black people or Mexicans, whatever. I agree. I think a lot of people can agree with that. But these riots benefit no one, and these discussions I've had so far or have shown have yet to prove me wrong. Now there have been some people that have actually gone like into a good argument, not become friends, but we kind of understand one another. There was one guy who said, "Where can we donate to those small businesses?" Or that man. "Let's talk this talk with our wallets. This can get rebuilt. Lives lost cannot." I then show him the links to the Carboy Bala fundraiser, and he gave me a like, and I gave him a like, and we seem pretty cool. Like, some good can happen from discourses. And the next discussion I get into is with a post that Rob McElhenney of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia made. He reposts or makes this black square post that everybody was doing for Blackout Tuesday, showing their support for Black Lives Matter and solidarity for George Floyd. And one person comments saying, "I can't believe you right now. Use your platform and donate your money. This is the bare minimum, and it looks like you're following a trend. Do more." Ooh, 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 ooh. Do more? Who says he hasn't done enough? Who says he hasn't donated? Not every waking moment of Rob's life does he have to prove that he's done something. If he's donated, that's great. He doesn't have to prove to you or anyone that he has. Let this man have a private life. Furthermore, it would be different if he explicitly told his entire audience that they were obligated to donate, while he himself doesn't show proof. That is when I agree with you. But all he's done is shown that protesters and police officers can get along peacefully. Also, from what appears on your page, you haven't shown that you've donated either, so do more. I agree this was kind of a smart-ass comment and wasn't warranted, but it kind of is. It was a bit smart-ass and I was a bit emotionally heated up in the moment, but a lot of people are saying to celebrities that they need to donate, while they themselves haven't shown proof of donating. She responds by saying, "I don't have the resources to donate, but I have signed petitions. My point is that he should be using his platform to spread petitions and places to donate, but he isn't. You're right, and he could be donating, but this is the first thing he has posted, and many people are treating this blackout as a trend, and it appears as he is just following it. If you don't have the resources to donate, that's completely fine, and signing petitions is very important as well. It's just odd to me that you appear very angry in your first post and demanding that he needs to do more. I bet it's coming from passion, and I understand that anger you probably have. I think everyone is justifiably angry, but I believe the recent posts and videos that he has shared portray different perspectives of both sides and shed new light on officers, that not all of them are bad and can get along peacefully with protesters. These posts, in my opinion, are just as important as a donation. My anger comes from the fact that he has exploited black people and has literally done blackface on his show and excused it because satire. But when it comes time to support the people that he exploited, he waits until this to say something, and even posts propaganda. I'm saying this as someone who was a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and him. I am just deeply disappointed, but not surprised. Okay, but here's the thing. He exploited everyone in his show. I'm pretty sure if he donated to all groups he's exploited, he'd be broke right now. Like I said, who says he hasn't shown support behind the scenes? I'm pretty confident that he doesn't show support of any group or donations online is because it could or would show favoritism, when the show itself is the exact opposite. Everyone of every race, political ideology, and gender are made fun of. If he showed some sort of favoritism, then people would call him out and label him a hypocrite. And there are many comments in Rob's post saying how it's propaganda, how he needs to delete it or donate more or open his purse. What's up with your I Love Cops post? It shows how there are times when both cops and protesters can get along peacefully, but major news outlets and celebrities refuse to share moments like this. A different girl responds to me by saying, at half the time, they gas the protesters right after. It's propaganda to diffuse the energy of the protest. ACAB. I've seen a lot of people argue with this statement. I've also seen people say in Flint that the protests were peaceful and nothing happened. If you have proof that this happened, then please do share. I'm open to anything and everything, but I'm not just going to believe every word of mouth statement with no evidence. Also, ACAB is a terribly gross generalization. It's apparently fine to generalize officers even when some are peaceful or pro-Black Lives Matter movement, but it's wrong to generalize any other race or movement. And again, this person hasn't responded to my argument, they respond to everyone else's argument. I'm not trying to say that I'm winning these arguments, but from what it looks like, I'm winning these arguments. I'm open to being proved wrong, but some of these people who are responding to me have yet to do so. Albeit for one person that actually did show some proof and I kind of got along with. There's one post saying or arguing how police propaganda is a threat and how it's a bad and terrible thing. And a person comments saying, there's literally so many cops posing for pics, kneeling with protesters, that then turn on them and gas shoot them for no reason. Do the research. I respond to her or him saying, do you have any links? I'm genuinely curious because I just did a quick research. I found that 60 police officers in Fayetteville, North Carolina were kneeling in solidarity with protesters for George Floyd and held this stance for 30 seconds. Both officers and protesters hugged it out, shook hands, and went home due to the curfew. I'm from North Carolina and had friends at the Asheville protest that witnessed this themselves 2 nights ago. And there's photo evidence. This also happened in Portland, Oregon, confirmed, and many other places. There aren't many links online since the media is running with the idea of cops kneeling and being peaceful, but it's out there. There's one link I found through truthout.org. And I did check it out. It did actually prove her argument or her point. There are instances as to whenever there's cops kneeling with protesters, there's a violence that erupts afterwards. However, as I said earlier in the video, context is necessary, and how it got to this violent point, it was never really explained. So I agree with her, but not entirely because I need more context on it. On to another post by Billy Magnuson, an actor who I like and appreciate. He posted this thread that's going on of how to respond to common racist statements. Now, this post I don't agree with whatsoever, but there's one that really aggravated and annoyed me and rubbed me the wrong way. As a white person, I'm discriminated against because of reverse racism. Racism requires both prejudice and power. You may face prejudice, that's not racism, because your race is in power. The criminal justice system favors white people. Social institutions favor white people and white culture, and internalized prejudices attribute favorable traits to white people. White people are irrefutably in the place of power, so reverse racism cannot exist. What? That's so close-minded. When did the term of racism change all of a sudden? This isn't anything new. I've seen this like a couple of years ago where people are saying that you need power in order to be racist. That's not what the original definition of the term means whatsoever. When have you ever needed to have power to be racist? Anyone and everyone can be racist, and that's what I said in my post. Since when did the term need to include power in the definition in order to justify as racism? Racism is simply hating or just being prejudiced towards another race. Anyone can be a racist. All you have to do is simply not like a person because of their skin color or ethnicity. Am I missing something? Since when did the definition change? Now, the last portion of my comment was kind of sarcastic or being of a smartass, but I forgot to realize that other people don't know how I'm saying it in my head or in my mind, so they took it serious, and I appreciate this guy's reply to me and him taking it serious. People are trying desperately to make it change in order to make it fit into a larger narrative. The idea of this was first proposed in the color confrontation theory. I think back in the 70s, sure, I think institutional racism cannot affect white people and is much more insidious. But racism against white people can happen too. Don't like the idea of changing the whole meaning of a word just to force it into a narrative. Another guy says, exactly, they're mixing up racism with oppression. You don't have to be oppressed to face racism unless it's systemic. Thank you, people. Thank you for agreeing with me. Racism, you don't need power. Since when? Does that mean me, who is like middle class Mexican, does that mean I can call white people this term or Asian people this term or black people this term because I'm a middle class Mexican and I can't be racist because I don't hold power? That makes no sense. It makes no fucking sense. Well, that's all I really had to show and say for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and seeing all the discourses I've had with people online. And hopefully open your mind a little bit and change your perspective on things, or makes you want to do a little bit more research. Hopefully it was informative as well. And as I said in my previous video, this will probably be my last heavily political topic video. Videos from now on, I want to lean more into film and TV shows and dissecting and discussing them a bit more, and making more film analysis or television analysis videos. Unless people are demanding me to make a video on a certain political topic, then I'll probably make it just because, why not? If you guys want to see it, then of course I'll make it. But if you don't, that's completely fine too. I just want to give my 2 cents on this entire situation. Try to have peaceful discussions with people online. I know that in one of these discussions, I kind of throw harsh words like calling the person arrogant, but I still believe it was fully warranted, that the person was being very closed-minded in my opinion. But I'll try to have a bit more peaceful discussions with people. Hopefully you guys do too, whether it's family or friends or strangers, and try to do as much research as you can on all sides of an argument or all sides of a topic, because it's good to broaden your viewpoint or perspective on things and to see where everyone is coming from and why they stand on what their viewpoint is. I'm saying that word a lot. Might as well make it a drinking game. I'm so sorry if you're hearing that a lot. That's all I can really say. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a great day and stay safe. See you guys later.